It's Monday, November 27th. This is Real Life Real Crime Daily, and I'm Jim Chapman.
I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agovino.
And we have some stories to cover today in the world of crime. 3 teens in New Orleans have pled guilty to a carjacking and the killing of an elderly woman. In South Korea, a true crime fan takes her curiosity just a bit too far. We have an update on that story that we first brought to you in June. And Derek Chauvin, y'all, the imprisoned police officer who was convicted in the killing of George Floyd, was stabbed in prison this past week. We've got details on all that. Armed EMTs stopped an axe-wielding woman from smashing through the station door in Kentucky. So y'all got to hear this story. In Alabama, a prison warden is the subject of 40 lawsuits. We're going to tell you why this is not as shocking as you may think. A Paralympic champion convicted 11 years ago in the murder of his girlfriend is scheduled for release on parole in January, and how that is happening is up for discussion today. A Tennessee police officer is recovering a bit from an altercation during a traffic stop in which his ear was bit off, Mike Tyson style. We're going to tell you all about that. Woody is bringing you an update from his recent story of a homeowner who fended off attackers with a gun in Los Angeles. And Tiffany Haddish, a Hollywood actress who has been arrested for DUI. Mike's got a story on her, not only about the arrest, but for those of us that may not be familiar, who Tiffany Haddish is. So, of course, kinky crimes, dumb criminals, and some WTF are going to round out the show today. But before we get into all that, how was everyone's Thanksgiving?
It's good. Different for me.
Yeah?
Yep. I ate a lot. Cooked a couple turkeys, like I said I would. And it was Turkey Day.
Turkey Day. Right. It was Ham Day for me.
There you go.
Your spread was quite impressive, as well as the musical accompaniment.
Yeah,
of your
that's right.
Of your spread.
A little holiday music to go along.
I was up in Jackson having
Mississippi.
Thanksgiving up there with the never had Thanksgiving in a. I don't even know what we'd call where he is now. I guess a rehab facility. That was interesting as we were sneaking shit through a back door there. But and then at my brother-in-law's house, which was very, very nice, and got to do some shooting up there for the first time with my new gun.
Uh-oh. He's armed, ladies and gentlemen.
Armed and not dangerous at this point.
Might be
but
more dangerous than you think.
That's right.
Well, if a very, 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 very large person was coming at me from a very, 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 very short distance, I'm reasonably confident I could hit them.
I'm pretty sure if you pull out that pistol and start blasting away, they're going to run. So you'd be safe either way.
Well,
unless
let's hope that the plan works out that way.
And that being said, let's get into some true crime time for Monday. And y'all, it is just after the holidays, so we're actually going to be dropping this episode just a little bit late today. But Jim Chapman will get it out to you ASAP, and we love and appreciate each and every one of y'all.
We're starting off in New Orleans. 3 teens have pled guilty this week to carjacking a 73-year-old woman and dragging her more than a block with her arm still stuck in the vehicle. A 4th faces trial, and we brought you this story. It's probably been about 3 months ago, but 17-year-old Brenya Baker, 16-year-old Lanira Theophil, and 16-year-old Markel Curtis entered the plea for attempted manslaughter in connection with Linda Fricke's death. They were initially charged with second-degree murder, and they were all sentenced to 20 years in prison. Fricke's sister said regarding the plea for them to plead guilty and say they want to do the 20 years as a relief to us. The 4th suspect, 18-year-old John Honore, pled not guilty to second-degree murder. His trial actually starts today, y'all. To refresh you on this case, we reported, this was back in March, actually. On March 21st, 2022 at 1:35, the New Orleans Police Department were called to North Scott Street regarding a carjacking and found Fricke on the ground unresponsive. New Orleans police said Fricke's arm was detached from her body and she was pronounced dead at the scene. Police determined the 4 teens carjacked Fricke, which caused her to be thrown from the vehicle during the commission of the offense. Then the suspects fled in a Nissan. Then New Orleans Police Department Superintendent Sean Ferguson said during a press conference he believed Freaky was tangled in her seatbelt, which caused her arm to be severed from her body and dragged during the incident. All 4 of the suspects were charged as adults, and Honore allegedly played a bigger role than the other 3 in the carjacking, including reportedly beating Freaky as he pushed her out of the car. If he gets convicted, Honore will serve life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. And Curtis said in court, "I wish I could go back and change the outcome." And Freaky seemed like such a nice lady.
Yeah, right. I bet they took the 20 years and they're going to testify against Honore.
Yeah, and this is big news right now. Look, this lady, in all reports that I've seen, was just, a salt of the earth grandmother.
Nobody deserves to have their arm ripped off and murdered during being carjacked because you're a bunch of punks.
Yeah, it really is disgusting. And that fourth suspect does go on trial starting today. They're expecting it to last about 3 days, so we'll keep you updated. I look for him to be found guilty pretty fast.
It's actually a pretty quick trial, isn't it?
I think so. You're absolutely correct on that. But being the fact that they have cut a deal with the other 3 and they're going to testify against him, there's not a whole lot of motions to be done.
No, it's good. They actually get to the trial that fast.
That's right.
Absolutely correct. Justice, right? And if you could stop it, they say it must be swift and certain. And that's the only problem is it's never swift or certain. But to South Korea, now I'm pretty sure I'm not the South Korean professional. Jim, can you give me a...
South Korea is a tough one.
Content trumps geography.
Right. Content trumps geography. And have you ever had kimchi?
I have not.
Yeah. It's the riding cabbage that they like buried under the ground. It's actually pretty good. It just stinks like shit. But all right, so let's go to South Korea, y'all, where we first told you about the story back in June about the psycho who took her true crime fandom a bit too far. A deranged true crime fan from South Korea who told police she savagely stabbed and butchered an English tutor out of curiosity while pretending to be a high school student has been sentenced to life in prison. Prosecutors assault the death penalty for Jung, 23, but she begged the court for leniency, claiming that she suffered from hallucinations and a host of other mental issues. District Court Judge Kim Top spared Jung's life, but rejected her claims that the monstrous killing was triggered by mental illness, given that the crime had been carefully planned and carried out. Jung was convicted of murder, desecration, and abandonment of corpse 5 months after she was indicted for brutally killing and dismembering a 26-year-old woman she met through an app in May. Prosecutors argue that Jung was obsessed with true crime television shows and books and decided to kill someone in real life to satisfy her curiosity about murder. The convicted killer, who was described as an unemployed recluse who lived with her grandfather, had used her cell phone and checked out books from a library to do research on about how to hide a body. Jung had spent months looking for prospective victims through an app that connects parents to tutors and contacted more than 50 people, mostly women, before finding one who lived alone and offered lessons at home. Posing as the mother of a ninth grader who needed help in English, Jung arranged for her bogus daughter to come to the tutor's home for a study session. She then donned the school uniform she bought online and went to the lady's address and stabbed her to death more than 100 times in a frenzied attack, delivering blows even after the victim had died. Jung left the slain tutor's home to buy trash bags and bleach before returning to dismember the body, including cutting off her fingers in a bid to make her difficult to identify her by her fingerprints, right? The 23-year-old then stuffed the remains into a suitcase and took a taxi to the Nakdong River, where she disposed of the grisly evidence in a secluded park. In order to make it looked like the victim had disappeared, Jung kept the victim's mobile phone, ID card, and wallet, and attempting to commit a perfect crime, the police said. But Jung's plot unraveled when the cabbie became suspicious and called the police about his passenger, who said she had dumped a blood-stained suitcase in a remote area by the river. Now, don't you fucking think a cabbie's going to know? Yeah, can I get a cab? I got a blood-stained suitcase, and hope stop by the river. Let me throw this shit away.
It's ketchup.
So after Jung was arrested, she initially told the police that she had only moved the victim's body after she was killed by someone else. Later, she claimed that she had accidentally killed the tutor during an argument. Ultimately, she confessed to the heinous killing, blaming it on her interest in the true crime genre. And on Friday, the judge who sentenced Jung said the murder had spread fear in society and that one can become a victim for no reason, and it incited general distrust. Right? And my wife used to teach kids in China at night English, and a lot of times the parents would sit in, or most of the times the parents would sit in and watch the sessions, and the parents are actually learning too. So I get this, but thank God she didn't do in call appointments, right?
Yeah.
She tried to go with accidentally on the 100+ stabbings.
Yeah. Well, no, she said somebody else killed her.
Well, that was first, but then she said it happened accidentally.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm crazy and I was
accidentally stabbed 107
and cut her body up, cut her fingers off, and
ain't no way to accidentally do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure the meticulous planning called for the cab.
Exactly. That's the genius of it, right? Call a cabbie, got a blood-soaked suitcase, and let me throw it in the river.
Yeah.
She may be that lone exception out there to the
she might be
the high Asian IQ rumor.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right.
Do they have death penalty there? What are they doing to her?
I know it said life in prison. I don't know. So maybe they don't have.
I thought they did really.
I know China,
brutal
China
death penalties.
Does it? Kills them in North Korea. They kill them quick.
Yeah, they don't even have a trial for the death penalty there.
And then they bill your family the cost of the bullet.
Wow.
Well, let's turn our attention over to Derek Chauvin, who is the Minneapolis police officer who was convicted in a Minneapolis court of murdering George Floyd back in Memorial Day of 2020. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Right. Chauvin is a former Minneapolis police officer. He was convicted of the murder of George Floyd. He was stabbed by another inmate and seriously injured on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, at a federal prison in the state of Arizona. The attack happened at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tucson, which is a medium security federal prison, but it's like many others. It has been plagued with security lapses and staffing shortages over the last few years. This was not the first such incident at that prison. The Bureau of Prisons confirmed that, quote, an incarcerated person was assaulted at FCI Tucson at around 12:30 local time on Friday. They didn't release his name right away. In fact, it was a leak that then spread and got picked up by the AP, and they were the first ones to report it. And eventually, everybody else, every other news org started reporting it. But details are really slim, even days later now, as we sit here on Monday morning. We know that at first they thought, he had to be resuscitated. They thought that he might not survive. They have revised that to a general likely to recover from his injuries, but nothing specific about the extent of the injuries and exactly what kind of surgeries or treatment he has had while he has been in the hospital. His mother has been very loud lately in a number of ways, and so she is out there very active about this because she has been pushing hard for his protection. The prison said no employees were injured, and the FBI was notified. Chauvin is 47 years old now. He was sent to this FCI Tucson from a maximum security Minnesota State Prison in August of 22 to simultaneously serve a 21-year federal sentence for violating Floyd's civil rights and a 22-and-a-half-year sentence for second-degree murder. His lawyer, Eric Nelson, had advocated for keeping him out of General Pop and away from other inmates, anticipating that he might be a target.
Yeah, it's pretty much a good thing. Yeah.
That was,
Well,
expected.
Cop in prison for murdering an African-American man, choking
Cop in prison, period.
Right.
well, and when he was in Minnesota, he was kept in solitary for his own protection for most of the time he was there. It's coincidental that this happened when it happened because I happened to be watching the brand new documentary series, which is called The Fall of Minneapolis, right as this was occurring. And I would just recommend that listeners to the show, if you have interest in understanding the case from all sides, take an hour of your time and watch the Fall of Minneapolis. It is it is a tough watch, and this is a very, very tough case. I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past, Woody, and I've shared that my impression from the very beginning was that that Chauvin was innocent and should be found innocent based upon the evidence, but this is another one of those cases where, where a judge is deciding exculpatory evidence isn't going to be admissible in court, where people are prevented from providing evidence that is important evidence in the case, where findings are changed conveniently during the process, and it's all detailed pretty thoroughly in this documentary. And what I found really is the most eye-opening thing. I won't go into the whole thing because there's a lot there, but the documentary opens with the very first officer on scene, who is called because Floyd tries to pass a $20 counterfeit bill at a store in Minneapolis, and the store calls the police. Two officers who are both rookies show up on that call, and Floyd is parked along with two other people in an SUV across the street from that store. And this Officer King, who was the first officer there, knocks on the front driver's side window of Floyd's car, and all of this is captured on his body cam. But the body cam footage was not shared for months. The public never saw the body cam footage until the narrative was sewed completely into the community that he had been choked to death. To watch that first 10, 15 minutes and see what this officer experienced, and Floyd's behavior during that period, I think is critical for people to see. And I think the other big thing is that the autopsy that was done within 24 hours of his death by the Hennepin County medical examiner showed that there was no damage whatsoever to his throat, his neck. There were no signs of any kind of choking. His death was ruled an accident in that initial autopsy, and then they were forced to change that autopsy later by the FBI. And so it is. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This guy's railroaded. Other people have been, and it's just a tragic story. And the coincidence of him getting attacked in jail on the week that this documentary premieres, I don't know, but could be a connection there. Don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but I think important for everyone to see this and make their own decisions based upon the evidence that is presented. And the sources in this documentary are unbelievably credible.
Well, tried by 12, and that's what the appeals process is for too, right? And I do understand there's acute political emergency cases where, when the cities are burning and they're trying to get things straight and all that, but I believe that hopefully justice will prevail in the end if he lives that long. Right? Somebody else doesn't kill him.
Right. Well, the big thing was this MRT, which I don't know, did they teach some kind of a restraint hold in Louisiana?
They teach a whole bunch of them as part of defensive tactics.
Are you familiar with that one?
I don't know with that. I mean, it's probably different in each state, but you have like a week worth of just hands-on training on how to defend and use different things for takedowns and stuff like that.
Well, this thing, the maximal restraint technique, MRT they called it, which was part of the training of officers in the Minneapolis Police Department, the chief of police got on the stand and claimed that it wasn't part of the training of the Minneapolis police. And then the training manuals for the Minneapolis police that clearly show that maximal restraint technique was taught were denied as evidence by the judge. The judge would not allow them to be presented to the jury at trial, despite the fact that you had a bunch of officers all stating that they had been trained in MRT, and the illustrations of MRT, when you hold the illustration side by side with the live shot of Derek Chauvin and where the pressure was being applied to George Floyd, are identical. I mean, he was using that technique. There's very little doubt of that when you look at it. So many things that are disturbing that come out of this thing.
We'll have to wait to see what they do on appeal, right?
Yep. It's called The Fall of Minneapolis. It's not out there broadly, so you search it or just go to thefallofminneapolis.com and you will find it.
10-4.
And, on the other side of that whole story is I can't believe they had him in G-Pop to where he could get stabbed.
Oh, yeah. Well, he probably got tired.
That's actually
He probably
surprising.
got tired of being locked up in a cell and was like, I can make it.
Well, and they have these special prisons that they actually have prisons that are specifically for police officers,
child
priests,
molesters and stuff
people.
like that.
Yeah, that
But they still kill each other too.
no doubt, no doubt. But you're right. If he makes it that long.
Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods.
The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gifts to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
All right, we'll go to Kentucky, and an armed Kentucky EMTs have subdued a woman accused of attacking a man with an axe before she smashed at a door at the emergency service station for those EMTs. The Olive Hill Police Department said Kelly Boggs, 44, no relation to Wade, attacked an unidentified man with an axe at 1 a.m. on Friday. The male victim was left with serious injuries to his face and was found in a ditch behind the Carter County EMS station's west base. Police said that after Boggs attacked the man, she made her way to the EMT station and smashed at a glass door. A group of EMTs were sleeping inside the station at the time of the incident. The EMT workers jumped into action to subdue the woman, holding her at gunpoint until police arrived. Boggs, who is from a neighboring town called Grayson, was charged with assault and criminal mischief, and she's being held at the Carter County Detention Center. The injured victim was taken to a local hospital where he's being treated for serious injuries. And I guess this woman had too much turkey on Thanksgiving. She picked up an axe and went to work.
Too much of something, right?
But how about the
carving?
Yeah, how about the EMTs being armed?
Right.
It kind of surprised me.
Well, it doesn't surprise me nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them, but thank goodness they were, because you got this woman. Can you imagine sleeping in your EMT station and an axe is coming through a window?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Make all types these days.
Mm-hmm. And it always does. And that was Kentucky, right?
That was Kentucky.
I'm going to take you probably to the longest story I'm ever going to do. In Alabama, a prison warden who told inmate Daniel Williams' family that the 22-year-old died of a drug overdose has been the subject of more than 40 lawsuits alleging brutality and a routine failure to protect prisoners. Williams' family alleged that their son was beaten, tortured, and raped for days, and one of the dozens of complaints penned against Warden Joseph Headley, 62 years old. Daniel Williams was just 2 weeks away from the end of a 12-month sentence for second-degree theft in Staten Correctional Facility in Elmore, Alabama, when he was found unresponsive. And you remember I told you about this part last week. He was declared brain dead on arrival at Jackson Hospital and taken off life support on November 5th and died 4 days later. the day of his scheduled release. Warden Headley informed his family that the young man had suffered an overdose, but according to the Equal Justice Initiative, a nurse told them Williams had been kidnapped, bound, and assaulted and sold out by another inmate for 2 or 3 days. So a Daily Mail investigation has uncovered a litany of legal complaints lodged against Headley. The suits filed in both federal and district courts stretch back more than a decade and encompass violations allegedly perpetrated by him during his tenure as warden of 3 different Alabama prisons. Inmate Sharon Fuquan Goodwin, currently serving 60 years for the first-degree robbery, was a prisoner in the St. Clair Correctional Facility when he filed his complaint against Headley. According to Goodwin, an officer assigned to his unit called a code for assistance when he noticed several inmates surrounding Goodwin carrying prison-made weapons. Goodwin stated that he informed 2 further officers that he was threatened by several inmates in a drugs dispute. He claimed that Headley was already aware of the situation but refused to take the appropriate steps to transfer him. And according to Goodwin, he made repeated requests to the warden to be transferred, but it was all ignored, y'all. Ultimately, an inmate tricked open his cell door and slashed Goodwin. In common with many of the complaints lodged by prisoners without legal representation, Goodwin's was ultimately dismissed by the court on a technicality on the occasion for failure to file in a timely fashion. Philip Dwayne Aaron is a lifer currently serving out his time for murder in Bullock Correctional Facility. He was a prisoner in Staten when he alleges he was severely beaten by correctional officers, leaving him with broken bones that required pinning and lacerations that required stitches. He's also filed suit against Headley. In Aaron's complaint, Headley is accused of being deliberately indifferent to conditions that pose a substantial risk of serious harm to prisoners, both from other prisoners and officers tasked with their care. Echoing Goodwin's allegations that Headley failed to act when presented with the inmate-on-inmate violence, Aaron asserts that the warden routinely failed to take any corrective measures or punitive actions against correctional officers who violate prisoners' rights. So, y'all, this list goes on and on and on. The Department of Justice found there to be an unconstitutional level of violence from inmates attack and a pattern of excessive force by correctional officers inflicted on inmates at Staten and other correctional facilities in the state. But according to Aaron's suit, 2 years on, despite this action, violence at Staten continues to be unabated. Aaron's suit alleged that Headley presided over a brutal regime in which there were no consequences for wardens or officers who violate prisoners' rights, and he ultimately settled out of court. So the stats for the DOJ's July 2020 investigation of Alabama prisons for men are eye-opening. From 2016 through 2018, the violence due to overcrowding and understaffing at Stanton was 20.5 times the national average, and that's a lot. Wow. The report states Alabama routinely violates the constitutional rights of prisoners housed in Alabama's prisons by failing to protect them from prisoner-on-prisoner violence and prisoner-on-prisoner sexual abuse, and by failing to provide safe and sanitary conditions. In addition, the department found chronic overcrowding led to the violence that escalated and prompted frequent use of excessive force by correctional officers. In short, in Alabama's prisons, cruel treatment of prisoners is common and de-escalation techniques are regularly ignored. According to the DOJ's report into the Alabama system, it is practically set up to allow any such failures to slide. Headley had been warden across at least 3 correctional facilities in Alabama in the past 10 years. And the report goes on and says, and because wardens' decisions to take corrective action are not reviewed, a DOC systems enables any warden who wants to avoid leadership scrutiny to do so by refusing to refer to incidents and Intelligence Investigation Division. The ODOC is investigating Williams' death. His father, like we told y'all last week, his father Terry and mother Tammy and stepmother Taylor Bostic have all spoken out against the heinous violence allegedly inflicted on their son, and none of his loved ones believe it was an overdose. Instead, his father Terry last week revealed it to be the focus of his final furious conversation with Headley. Terry said, "I called the warden and I cussed him. I said, dude, you know this is not an overdose case. You know exactly what happened. How is this crap going to happen like this?" Well, and like I told y'all last week, Headley says, well, it's under investigation right now. And that's the last time the dad ever talked to the warden.
Well, let me tell you this. We do a lot of research on prisons and prison wardens, and this is common, these lawsuits. All prisoners have to do in prison is complain and bitch and file lawsuits against wardens.
I have a news flash for those prisoners. Prisons are not nice places.
No.
And you shouldn't have been climbing through your grandma's woman's window and stealing her television or raping her or whatever you got doing. I mean, I hate to sound harsh on them, but you put yourself there.
Well, but for one state to have a 20 times the average stat is, I mean, that's
a lot.
That's pretty
That's
crazy.
It's a lot.
But being able to prove it, and like Jim said, yeah, they file lawsuits all day long,
And they're always against the wardens. And you know, every inmate claims that the treatment is too harsh.
Right.
You know, it's amazing how common those lawsuits are.
They should have stayed home.
Yeah.
Right.
Is Alabama, is their prison system sort of known to be
I haven't heard
particularly
anything
brutal?
I think this is just because there's 40 lawsuits filed. Look, this kid dying, that's sad, it's horrible, but you know what? Prisons are not full of church-going angels, right? I mean, you go to prison, you certainly have a higher risk of being murdered or raped than you do if you're sitting in the studio.
Right.
Well, let's go from a prison in Alabama to a guy getting out of prison in South Africa. Remember Oscar Pistorius?
Yep.
Blade Runner,
Yep.
they called him. Just to refresh a little bit, he's been in jail since 2013 when he was convicted for the death of his then girlfriend, whose name is Reva Steenkamp. He was first convicted of culpable homicide. So the first time they tried him, they did not convict him of murder. And if you remember, this was the weird thing where he claimed to think there was an intruder in the apartment and they were in the bathroom and he couldn't see into the room but knew they were in behind a wall. He fired 4 shots killing Steenkamp, but claiming that he believed it was an intruder. And so they first found this culpable homicide, which is basically that he has to take some responsibility for it because he fired 4 times. And but as he was being released on that initial conviction, the Supreme Court in South Africa found him guilty of murder. So he was supposed to get out in 5 years ago. In 2015, he was put on house arrest. So he was getting out early even. And then the Supreme Court overturned his culpable homicide and convicted him of murder, which required an additional 15-year sentence. But now he is being released early on good behavior and will be paroled. So according to the Department of Correction Services in South Africa, the parole board has set his release for January 5th, 2024. In a statement that they shared on Twitter, sorry, I don't say X, on Friday, the Department of Correctional Services said Pistorius will be monitored by authorities until his sentence expires. Parole placement forms part of the total rehab program in correcting offending behavior and may include continuing programs aimed at reintegration whilst the system of community corrections. Per the BBC, Pistorius will also have to attend therapy sessions, according to Steenkamp's family's spokesperson. According to her mother, June, she said that she had sent a letter to the parole board ahead of Friday's hearing saying that she didn't oppose Pistorius's early release, but questioned whether he had truly dealt with his, quote, huge anger issues while he was in prison. She also added that she would potentially be, quote, concerned for the safety of any woman who comes into contact with Pistorius. So she did not attend Friday's hearing at the correctional facility, saying she can't muster the energy to face him ever again. And at this time, the Department of Corrections said that that they would be reconsidering. So he's going to be out in January, and we will see what happens with the Blade Runner. I think he's a little bit too old to be racing anywhere, and I don't think they're going to allow him to do anything like that.
Probably won't make the Olympics this year. Right?
Yep, it's parole for him.
There you got it.
All right. Look, traffic stops, Woody Overton. No such thing as routine anymore, are they?
The routine ones are the ones that get you killed because you got complacent.
Well, Memphis, Tennessee, a 43-year-old man with a criminal history faces some charges after he bit part of a police officer's ear off during a traffic stop this week. A Memphis, Tennessee officer noticed Marcus Johnson and a female passenger in a 2002 Ford F-150. When the officer looked up the vehicle tags, they were registered to another car. Imagine that. So Johnson tossed a brown leather patch on the ground, and the officer went up to him. Johnson provided car information that did not verify his identity, and as the police officer tried to apprehend Johnson, he strangled him and bit a piece of his right ear off. And it's just like you always say, once you try to put the handcuffs on, that's when things turn ugly.
Right.
Johnson then hit the police officer multiple times in the face and stomach area. Johnson even took the officer's holster to get his gun and his taser. So he took it off of the waist of the officer.
That's crazy.
The officer eventually took Johnson into custody and recovered the leather pouch. And guess what? The officer found marijuana, fentanyl, methamphetamine, ecstasy, and Xanax inside that pouch.
Imagine that.
Johnson and the officer were subsequently transported to the hospital for treatment. Officers later learned that Johnson had been driving even though his license had been revoked and he did not have proof of insurance. The district attorney's office said Johnson had other felony drug charges from a 2022 case, and they advocated for his bond to be revoked. The judge ultimately revoked that bond in the 2022 case and increased his bond to $500,000 for attempted second-degree murder charge from the assault on the officer. Good for them. And the Shelby County District Attorney said in a statement, "When I saw how he had been a fugitive for about a year from a prior charge, I instructed our prosecutors to not only seek a high bond, but revoke bond outright. The defendant has already proved he can't be trusted. I'm glad the judge agreed." And of course, he remained in jail.
You get your ear bit off without filling a guy full of lead, but I wasn't there, so.
How did he get his? So Johnson got his holster and his gun, and then he.
Well, he didn't get his gun.
Back.
The good thing about these holsters, and I don't want to tip them off too much, but
it's triple retention. They don't know how to do
you can't
it.
just pull them out of the holster. There's a way in which you have to maneuver that gun to pull it out. And so he managed to get his belt off. Yeah. They were wrestling, and he managed to somehow get that belt off and grab the holster.
The belt actually goes over your daily belt, and you have loops that snatch your duty belt to that belt to hold it up. So I don't know. And this has been a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
So, he's lucky to be alive, and that dude's really lucky to be alive because if it had been me, I'd have shot him. So, y'all, it's another kind of update on the story I shared before Thanksgiving, and even though we didn't know the name of the man involved, but we never thought the government would come after him. But a Los Angeles homeowner who had his concealed carry weapon license revoked after using a gun to fend off armed attackers at his home may have a little recourse to get his permit back. In their terms and conditions agreement, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department grants itself virtually limitless, unchecked discretion to revoke a constitutional right over just about anything at any time. That's according to Amy Swear, a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. At issue in the case of an LA resident and married father of Vince Ricci, who earlier this month was forced into a gunfight when two armed men jumped the fence of his gated community in an attempt to force their way in his front door. Ricci, concerned for the safety of his wife and 5-month-old daughter and the family's nanny, fought back, first with a hot cup of tea he was holding in his hand, and then he got into a firefight with him, y'all. The surveillance footage captured the dramatic scene unfolding, showing the intruders retreating from Ricci's gunfire, with one hopping back over the fence and another running around a car in the driveway. But Ricci told Fox News Digital last week that the response to the heroin incident has been for authorities to target him, calling him to inform him that his concealed carry license has been revoked as a result of him yelling while they attempted to investigate the incident 3 days later. After successfully defending my home and my family and my 5-month-old child, California has now decided to suspend my Second Amendment rights, Ricci said. Sheriff's Office spokesperson said the agency recognizes the ordeal was extremely traumatic and startling for the Ricci family, and they hope the individuals responsible for this crime are arrested and held accountable. The Sheriff's Office added the Department of Justice established the guidelines for the concealed permits, and the Sheriff's Department must follow the DOJ's parameters in accordance with the law. The DOJ has been notified, and there are avenues for Mr. Ricci to reapply for his permit. We have been in contact with the Ricci family and have been providing information to them about the CCW protocols and guidelines in an effort to ensure the Second Amendment rights are protected, the spokesperson said. Sheriff's Department respects the rights of individuals to exercise their Second Amendment rights and continually process over thousands of CCW permit applications and renewals every year. And y'all, part of that process is they are able to diligently track, process, and manage individuals who possess the permits. But Swearer argued it is completely unclear what the DOJ guidelines and the Sheriff's Department could be referring to, questioning whether the department would have any role in the decision to revoke Ricci's permit. And y'all just go on and on to argue it. But it says, but to my knowledge, the only place where such policies are found with respect to the automatic revocation of a CCW license isn't in the DOJ guidelines or state law, but in additional terms and conditions agreements that the Sheriff's Office requires all applicants to sign. And not only are these terms and conditions not required by California DOJ or by state law, but the Sheriff's Office is one of only a few jurisdictions that impose them. So the Swearer noted that the California law enforcement agencies are responsible for issuing the CCW permits and that they have a broad discretion over most aspects of issuing and revoking them. And given California's strict gun laws and the discretion given to state law enforcement agencies, Swearer's question what recourse the homeowner has to regain his Second Amendment rights. I don't know. I mean, like Louisiana, you can just carry it open. You don't have to have the CCW permit, but they do have guidelines for it. And if they think you violated it, I know they have hearings and ways to go back at it.
Well, okay, so this was a major story, national story. There's video that shows everything that happened. Had Ricci not had the gun on him, good chance he's dead, good chance his wife and the child are dead. And so who looks at his actions during this and decides that punitive action has to be taken again? I don't
know. I guess them running away and him still shooting or whatever, they're saying that violates whatever agreement he signed the state of Sheriff's Office has. I agree. I mean, I'm him. I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
Right. There's no doubt. And you actually bring up a good point. And because that's the law in most states is, you're allowed to use just enough force to keep yourself safe. So if you pull out a gun and someone turns around and runs and you shoot them in the back,
yeah,
you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Well, but they were shooting still.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the video. I'm just making a comment to what he said, which was if they were running away and you continue to shoot, that would be a a law violation. Not that I agree with it, but
they're probably going to give him his license back anyway. If I was him, I wouldn't worry about it. I'd just take that misdemeanor charge and carry it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of sounds like
give me a ticket.
It sort of sounded like the sheriffs are being forced to do something that they don't maybe feel too good about doing. Right. But
I don't think
the state of California probably doesn't want 40 million citizens in their state going out to get guns after watching this, and they're trying to make an example of the guy. I don't know.
But the crime rate would go way down if everybody had this.
Yeah, it would, except King Newsom doesn't think that way.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glaze, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something. And all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
Tiffany Haddish.
Don't know her.
Fans?
Nope.
Never heard of her.
Couldn't pick her out of a lineup?
Nope. Couldn't do it.
Okay. Kind of there with, I mean, I could pick her out of a lineup. She's been in some things. She does stand up. She's a funny lady. But apparently she's got an issue with getting intoxicated, operating a vehicle, and then falling asleep in the vehicle on roadways.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea. So, according to the Beverly Hills Police Department, the actress, who is 43, was arrested on Friday morning and is currently facing a DUI charge after she allegedly fell asleep behind the wheel of the car. Authorities said that they received a call around 5:45 a.m. local time about a woman who was stopped in the middle of Beverly Drive while the vehicle was still running. Officers Rosewood and Taggart arrived on scene to find Haddish stopped in the middle of the busy Beverly Hills street. Okay, this is our first day back from vacation, Thanksgiving, and so the fact that they didn't pick up on the officers Rosewood and Taggart in the Beverly Hills Police Department.
Like Eddie Murphy. Yeah. I get it now.
Hell, I thought there was.
I could have pulled the banana in the tailpipe trick on both of you guys today and gotten away with it. The vehicle appeared to have a banana coming out of its tailpipe that Haddish claimed was put there by a man named Axel Foley. Rosewood and Taggart were unable to locate Foley, and there are no other witnesses who validate their story. That's bullshit, folks. Sorry. According to the Beverly Hills Police Department, Haddish is expected to be released later today. She was TMZ was the first to report this story, and they said that Haddish had performed at the Laugh Factory on Sunset the night before, meaning actually that night. She's found at 5 o'clock in the morning. So she did a stand-up routine on Sunset and probably was imbibing during that routine and kept it going because there was a 43rd annual fundraiser that was being held at the Laugh Factory that night. So she was there for a while, and who knows what that led to next. But Haddish's recent arrest comes after the stand-up comedian and Girls Trip, that was her biggest movie star, was arrested for another DUI-related incident back in January of 2022. At the time, this is in Atlanta, she was arrested by Peachtree City Police for a suspected DUI and improper stopping on a roadway. So this is a thing with her. According to authorities, officers received a 911 call around 2:30 a.m. local time, so that was a earlier night for her, that a driver who had allegedly fallen asleep at the wheel on Highway 74. I'm not familiar with Highway 74 in Atlanta, but I do know Beverly Boulevard pretty well. And I mean, it's even at 5:30 in the morning, not a place you want to just have a car sitting in the middle of the street with a person passed out. Officers located a car that matched the description from the 911 call and conducted a traffic stop. Subsequent investigation led to Ms. Tiffany Haddish being arrested for driving under the influence, according to police, and she was brought to the Fayette County Jail without incident. She's due in court on December 4th for the Beverly Hills case, according to TMZ. This reminds me of an incident that occurred back when I was living there, where I had a buddy who shall remain nameless, who had a little bit too much to drink and should have never been behind the wheel, got on the 405 freeway, which major freeway in LA, and gets pulled over. And the officer comes to his window and says, how fast do you think you were going? And he says, I don't remember the number he said, but I don't know, 70, 75. And the officer goes, 6.
6 miles an hour.
6 miles an hour on the 405 he was going. Probably just as dangerous, maybe even more dangerous than going, 40 miles over the speed limit. So, Tiffany, be careful out there. You're making a fortune. Get yourself a driver. And,
Too many options outside of driving yourself drunk. And, you know, with our lifestyle, I mean, alcohol is readily available, right? When you're at comedy shows and you're a comedian.
Sure, it's part of it, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, and it may be good for a show, but have the common sense to. You certainly have the money to
Call an Uber.
Get or get a friend to drive. He usually has an entourage around her, I would think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Make smarter decisions. That's for sure.
You can now take off that belt and move freely around the cabin.
It's my high crime time.
Happy Thanksgiving, Tiffany.
A disgruntled Frontier Airlines, many disgruntled Frontier Airlines passengers
Get online.
were in for a sight on a recent flight where a woman tried to pull down her pants and relieve herself mid-trip.
Nice.
And it was all caught on video. That's what we love, because we can show it to all of you. The female passenger, who has not been named publicly, had the courtesy to say, "Sorry, everybody," before she appeared to pull down her pants, squat in the aisle on the Monday flight from Florida to Philadelphia. This was last Monday. The woman apparently wanted to relieve herself in the aisle after a flight attendant told her she could not use the restroom at the time. Hey, I get it.
Show you.
What am I supposed to do?
Don't say that to an Eagles fan.
Perhaps not surprisingly, the situation got ugly when surrounding passengers protested, prompting the woman to yell back, "I don't give a fuck. Fuck you. I gotta pee." She caved to the pressure, however, and pulled her pants back up before continuing to insist the flight attendant led her into the plane bathroom. At one point, the person behind the camera recording the confrontation can be heard saying, "That poor boy next to us," seemingly referring to the young boy across the aisle who was afforded a graphic view of the display. The woman also continued fighting with several other passengers toward the back of the plane, though it's unclear if she was traveling with them. Matthew Hartman and I had the most awful experience flying home from Florida this afternoon. Vachelle Hartman, the person who took the video, wrote on Facebook of the woman's antics. A passenger was upset that she was required to sit in her assigned seat and decided to pull her pants down right in front of 2 children. "I literally had a front row seat to the spectacle. She threatened to kill another passenger," this all claimed by the lady. "She threatened me, and I told her to sit down. I hope she's arrested and banned from flying again. we will definitely post that said video on the Facebook page. So follow Real Life Real Crime Daily to get this video and more stories we cover here. How about that for a Mile High Crime? Hey, man, when you got to go, you got to go.
Sure, there's going to be a lot after Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people weighing in on that lady who sang gospel on the plane.
I saw that.
The one, I think you did that last week, or maybe it was the week before.
Yeah, she got. Most people want her to sit down.
Yeah, that was
singing.
like 99% saying, "Shut that, you know what, up," and play your sing your songs when you're on stage, not on the plane.
That's right. Nothing like a kinky crime to bring you into post Thanksgiving.
No one would be
food.
kinky over Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. Listen to this one. So a video has been released of the shocking moment a personal trainer flew into a fit of rage after finding his wife cheating on him with a homeless man.
Oh, that's always fun.
Eduardo
Standards.
Alves, right. Eduardo Alves, well, until you see the pictures of him, walks up to a parked car and peeks through the windshield only to see his partner inside with another man. Enraged, he slams his fist on the glass before opening the car door and climbing inside to give the man a beating. Right? The wife, who is an avid churchgoer, later told a friend she had received a message from God to help the homeless person. And according to reports, Mr. Alves' wife had left home to help a man she noticed living on the street. Eduardo later tried contacting his wife, but she was not answering her phone. Personal trainer later found the car his wife had left home in by a primary school. And after approaching the vehicle, he came across the jaw-dropping scene. Mr. Alves told the police that he first thought it was a rape he was witnessing through the windshield. However, his wife told officers that the relations she was having with the man at the time were in fact consensual. She told the cops she enjoyed helping vulnerable people through the church she attends. And she had allegedly later told a friend she had received a message from God to help the homeless man she was caught with. The homeless man was taken to the hospital with bruises and 2 black eyes, and he is said to be recovering well from the injuries he sustained, and Mr. Alves was arrested for assault. And look at these pictures.
Yeah, we're going to post these online. Let me tell you, Mr. Alves, you don't want to mess with. First of all, that is a jacked,
and
Incredible Hulk-looking sucker.
That homeless man had to think he won the lottery.
Yeah, and his wife's absolutely beautiful.
That's what I'm saying.
She was like, "Can I help you?" He's like, "Oh yeah."
She was like, "God told me."
I don't know what to say about that.
The winner in this story was the homeless man, even if he got his ass kicked.
He's got his black eyes.
That's right.
Well,
that was kinky.
Just say kinky crimes.
As jacked as what's his name, the husband?
Alves, Mr. Alves.
Okay,
Eduardo.
Okay. If Eduardo, found her with, some local, business person, who had a shit ton of money or whatever, something like that, he, maybe could emerge with his self-esteem intact from something like that. But finding her doing it with a homeless guy?
I don't know. He looks like he'd beat anybody's ass. So.
I mean, do you guys watch Shameless? You ever watch Shameless? It's great. It's great. It's like 10-year Showtime series. But William H. Macy is basically a homeless guy named Frank Gallagher in the series. And so I'm picturing that guy finding Frank Gallagher having sex with his wife, and he would...
Homeless or not, I don't think that's the guy that you want to find you if you're with his wife.
Yeah, no.
Could you, hey,
He's all swole up.
knocking on that window? Oh yeah,
That is
that's your husband.
definitely need a
feeling
picture
blessed
of the
then.
homeless guy.
Oh
There.
man, scary.
All right.
A Florida man wanted by the cops tried to throw them off his trail. He did it by placing a big sign outside his house that read, "Johnny Yates does not live here."
Saw that.
Surprise, surprise, it did not work. Yates, who is 41, was wanted by the Polk County Sheriff's Office on aggravated battery, false imprisonment, and tampering charges. He was eventually locked up. You got to get up pretty early in the morning if you're going to get a leg up on the Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd and his deputies, and this guy was simply not up to the task. He wasn't in their league, you might say. Deputies showed up at Yates's Lakeland home at around 2:45 p.m. on Saturday after receiving a tip that he was holed up inside. When the deputies arrived, they noticed a note written on dry erase board in front of a window that said, Johnny Yates does not live here. A dry erase board. The deputies questioned someone leaving the house who confirmed that Yates was inside. But after surrounding the house for an hour and calling for the fugitive to come out, cops had to take it to the next level. Enough was enough, and the surrender smoke was dispensed inside the house, and 4 people exited the home, but still no Johnny. So a second round of surrender smoke was put in, yet still no response from Johnny. Finally, deputies sent in Dexter. The Polk County Canine Dexter entered the house and located Johnny, who was hiding in a modified chest of drawers. His strategy was the sign and hiding in a chest of drawers. He was arrested and taken to jail. The office said the 4 people who were initially holed up in the house with Yates were also dealt with, which Sheriff Judd doesn't have to explain what that means. In regards to the 4 people who weren't cooperating with the deputies, each one received a parting gift. A charge of resisting and an all-expense-paid trip to Grady Judd's bed and breakfast. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, that is. I want to give a shout-out to Shauna Drina, a listener who works in Polk County, who volunteered to pick us up an authentic Sheriff Grady Judd sheriff on a shelf for the holidays.
Yeah,
so she is,
sweetie. We appreciate that. I saw that post.
Putting that in the mail, and I'm sure that'll be prominently displayed around here. And these dumbasses didn't know who they were dealing with, and the strategy of the sign saying you don't live here is not the sharpest.
Dumb indeed.
Banjos for them.
Sometimes we say WTF, and sometimes we just say, yeah. And this is one that just had me going, what? Why? This comes out of Ascension Parish, Louisiana, and an overwhelming number of vandalism cases is causing big problems for public bathrooms at parks and facilities in that parish. The vandalism cases have happened in recent months. Just about every weekend, one of the 22 parks is either destroyed, vandalized, or somebody tries to burn it down, said James LeBlanc, the Safety and Security Director for Ascension Parish. According to LeBlanc, the vandalism cases have racked up nearly $100,000 in damages during a period of just 2 years. He added that there has been a damage to bathrooms, windows, and picnic tables. Because of the ongoing problems, crews will now lock all public restrooms at parks and other facilities. The bathrooms will only be open during parish-sponsored events. The closures could last until measures can be put in place to catch and prosecute those responsible for the vandalism. The city added that they can't afford to continue to keep spending time and resources making repairs. We can't continue to afford to pay for damage. But the amount of time and effort and labor it takes for a rec team to come here every Monday and clean up is ridiculous. That from LeBlanc.
That's correct.
Why?
Yeah, nothing better to do.
WTF. Yes. Now you have to close all your public park restrooms because somebody wants to go in there and just damage the piping.
Be an asshole.
Just be an asshole.
Be an asshole.
So the lesson to that story is don't be an asshole.
Exactly.
And that is your WTF. And that brings us to a close of today's show. Sorry it was late, folks.
Yeah, that's all right. We love you all and appreciate each and every one of you. Please continue to like and share and all that good podcaster stuff. And
Mike, any final thoughts?
Put some cameras in those state parks and catch these idiots.
Yeah, there you go.
It's true, too. Maybe they'll do that.
Put them up in the trees or something where they can't get to them.
Right. Game cams.
They make those, yeah. So until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
Woody Overton.
I'm Mike Agovino.
Your host of Real Life, Real Crime Daily. Peace.
Aglets.